Day 365. The bouquet waited like a body on the welcome mat, white gardenias, arranged with surgical precision. No card. No footprints. Just the scent of a threat-wearing perfume. Someone had been inside her head for 365 dawns. And today the game changed. She muttered, "You're late," to no one, and carried the flowers inside. Her living room had become a mausoleum of blooms, vases on every surface, petals curling in various stages of surrender. 365 mornings of anonymous devotion, documented with the precision of a forensic archivist. She snapped 4 photos, north, south, east, west, logged the delivery timestamp, the exact angle of the hallway light, the outdoor temperature, 41 degrees Fahrenheit. Then she slid the bouquet into the last empty crystal vase. Her phone buzzed. Lily ***, tell me today's came with a name. Please, Gertie. I'm begging, ***. Gertrude ***, white gardenias. No card. Same ritual, ***. Lily ***, this is either the world's slowest courtship or the world's most patient serial killer. Gertrude ***, if he wanted me dead, I'd be compost by now. Lily ***, that's not comforting. Gertrude set the phone down. She wasn't calm, she was catalogued. Numb curiosity had calcified into routine. For 11 months, she'd assumed a clerical error. By month 12, she'd started the journal, sketches, Latin names, Victorian meanings. Gardenias, secret love, refinement, purity. Today's bouquet was the first repeat. A full circle, a signature in petals. She had a 10 a.m. with a new client, some legal historian who'd leased the top floor of a gilded pre-war manor on the Upper East Side. No restaurant, no tasting menu, just mahogany-paneled silence and the promise of a 6-figure retainer to digitize a private collection of 19th-century trial transcripts. She arrived early, was escorted through corridors that smelled of beeswax and old money, and shown into a study lit by a single green banker's lamp. The man waiting wasn't the silver-haired academic she'd expected. He stood 6'3", maybe 6'4", dressed in charcoal wool sharp enough to cut glass. Black shirt, top button undone, ink climbing his throat like ivy escaping a cemetery. His hands were folded behind his back. His gaze pinned her the way a specimen slide pins a butterfly. "Miss Blake," he said, voice low, deliberate. "Daniel Stone, consultant." The handshake was warm, brief, and left a phantom heat on her palm. They spoke about provenance, chain of custody, metadata schemas. He asked questions that should have been routine but felt like cross-examination. Then, without blinking, "Do you like gardenias?" The room tilted. She tasted metal. "They're adequate," she managed. His mouth curved, not quite a smile. "Adequate," he repeated, as if tasting the word. The meeting ended. She walked home through streets that suddenly felt too narrow. For the first time in 366 days, her doorstep was bare. No dew-kissed bouquet. No silent vow. Her phone vibrated. Unknown number. "You never missed a single one. I noticed. ***. Another message. 30 seconds later. "Gardenias mean you're lovely. I thought you should hear it from me instead. ***. Her pulse hammered against her ribs like a trapped moth. She looked up. Across the street, a black town car idled, tinted windows reflecting the dusk. The rear door opened. A gloved hand placed a single gardenia on the curb, then retreated. The car pulled away. Gertrude didn't sleep that night. Instead, she opened her journal to day 1 and began tracing the invisible thread that had just stepped out of the shadows and into her life. She flipped to the first entry, **Day 1. White camellia, you're a flame in my heart. And realized the flame had been watching her burn for a year. It started in a courthouse hallway 12 months earlier. Gertrude closed the journal with a snap that echoed like a gunshot in the quiet of her apartment. The single gardenia from the curb lay on her coffee table now, its stem wrapped in black satin ribbon. New, deliberate, personal. She stared at it until the petals blurred, then forced herself upright. Routine was armor. She would not let one text message, one man, unravel the scaffolding of her life. She showered in water hot enough to scald, dressed in her usual armor of charcoal wool and starched cotton, and left for the archives at 7:12 a.m. precisely. The city was still yawning awake, steam curling from grates, the air sharp with November bite. She walked the 12 blocks to the New York Historical Society's research wing, eyes scanning every reflection in storefront glass, every shadow between parked cars. No town car, no gloved hand, just the ordinary chaos of Manhattan mornings. But ordinary felt counterfeit now. At her desk in the climate-controlled reading room, she opened the journal again. Not the flower one, the real one, leather-bound, filled with her microscopic handwriting. She had documented every bouquet since day 47, when curiosity overrode dismissal. Now she pored over the entries with the ferocity of a codebreaker. Day 1 * white camellia. Ribbon. Plain cream linen. Wrap. Brown craft paper, folded hospital corner tight. Day 47 * forget-me-nots clustered with baby's breath. Ribbon. Midnight blue silk, 1.5 centimeters width. Wrap. Matte black, embossed with faint watermark. * impossible to see unless held to light. *. Day 112 * red tulips, declaration of love. Ribbon. Crimson velvet. Wrap. Heavy cream stock, watermark now a subtle monogram. * DNS. *. Day 200 * orchids, rare beauty. Ribbon. Gold thread. Wrap. Handmade paper, fibers visible. Watermark evolved into a tiny crest, a lion rampant over crossed keys. Day 365 * gardenias. Ribbon. Black satin. Wrap. None. Delivered by hand. The progression was surgical. The ribbons widened. The materials escalated from utilitarian to luxurious. The watermarks, Christ, how had she missed the watermarks? Formed a private heraldry. She pulled her phone, zoomed in on photos taken months apart. Under magnification, the crest resolved. A lion, yes, but the keys beneath it were skeletal, old-fashioned, the kind that opened vaults or crypts. Mafia insignia? Corporate logo? She didn't know, but the pattern screamed intent. Her hands trembled as she typed the crest into a reverse image database. Nothing. Of course. Whoever he was, he didn't leave digital footprints. By noon she was vibrating on caffeine and adrenaline. She needed air. She needed distance. She took the service stairs to the staff exit on 76th Street and froze. Across the street, half hidden by a delivery truck, stood Daniel Stone. Same charcoal coat, collar turned up against the wind. He wasn't looking at his phone. He wasn't pretending to read a newspaper. He was simply there, hands in pockets, watching the door she'd just emerged from. Gertrude's pulse jackhammered. She ducked back inside, heart slamming against her ribs. This was not coincidence. This was orchestration. She spent the afternoon in the sub-basement stacks, surrounded by the smell of mildew and forgotten ledgers, pretending to catalog 19th century shipping manifests. But her mind was a crime scene. Every footstep in the corridor sounded like polished Oxfords. Every shadow stretched into a 6'4" silhouette. At 5:47 p.m., exactly 12 hours after the empty doorstep, she left through the main entrance, blending with the evening researcher exodus. She took the long way home, cutting through Central Park, weaving between joggers and dogwalkers. The gardenias in her tote bag felt heavier than lead. She stopped at her usual cafe on 79th and Amsterdam, the one with the cracked leather booths and the barista who knew her order. Black tea, 2 sugars, no milk. She slid into her corner seat, opened her laptop, and pretended to work. 10 minutes later, the bell above the door chimed. Daniel Stone walked in. He didn't scan the room. He didn't hesitate. He moved straight to the counter, ordered an espresso in a voice like velvet over steel, and took the seat directly across from her booth. Not beside the window. Not at the bar. Across from her. As if the cafe had been staged for this exact confrontation. Gertrude's fingers went white on her teacup. "You're following me," he He sipped his espresso, eyes never leaving hers. I'm not following you. I've been watching over you. The words landed like a verdict. She leaned forward, voice low. That's not better. That's worse. Is it? He set the cup down with deliberate care. You left the archives at 5:47. You always do on Tuesdays. You walk the park loop counterclockwise, never clockwise because the path narrows near the Delacorte and you hate feeling hemmed in. You stop here for tea because the barista, Marco, lets you linger without small talk. You sit in this booth because it has the best sight line to the door and the emergency exit. You've done this every Tuesday for 14 months. Her stomach plummeted. How? I pay attention. He tilted his head. You catalog everything, Gertrude. Timelines, metadata, provenance. I catalog you. She wanted to scream. She wanted to throw the tea in his face. Instead, she heard herself ask, why? Because you're extraordinary. Simple. Devastating. And because the world is full of people who would hurt you to get to me. The cafe noise receded to a dull roar. Who are you? Daniel Stone is a convenience. A mask. He leaned in, elbows on the table, voice dropping to a murmur meant only for her. My real name is Dan N. Sanders. And yesterday, I decided the flowers weren't enough. Gertrude's mind raced through databases she hadn't known she possessed. Asterisk Sanders. DNS. The watermark crest. Asterisk fragments clicked into place like tumblers in a lock. She'd read about him. Buried in redacted FBI files she'd digitized last year. A ghost in the machine of organized crime. Ruthless. Meticulous. Untouchable. You're a criminal. I'm a man who gets what he wants. His gaze flicked to the tote bag where the gardenia peeked out. And I want you safe. This isn't safety. This is. She gestured helplessly at the space between them, the invisible web he'd spun. Surveillance. Protection. He corrected gently. There's a difference. Is there? She stood abruptly, chair scraping. Stay away from me. She was halfway to the door when his voice followed, soft as silk, sharp as wire. You'll see me again, Gertrude. Not because I follow. Because you'll look for me. She didn't sleep. She barricaded her door with a chair, set her phone to record audio all night, and sat at her kitchen table with the journal open like a grimoire. At 3:14 a.m., she noticed something she'd missed in daylight. The ribbons. She laid them out in chronological order on the table. Cream, blue, crimson, gold, black. The widths increased by exactly 0.5 centimeters every 73 days. The colors followed the visible spectrum, shifting from cool to warm to cool again. A pattern. A code. She grabbed a legal pad and began transcribing. Cream, day 1 to 73 observation. Blue, day 74 to 146 curiosity. Crimson, day 147 to 219 admiration. Gold, day 220 to 292 devotion. Black, day 293 to 365 claim. Her pen hovered over the page. Claim. The word tasted like blood. At 6:03 a.m., her phone buzzed. Unknown number. I noticed you didn't sleep. The light in your kitchen stayed on until 4:27. You drank 3 cups of tea. Chamomile, not black. You're anxious. Let me fix that. Asterisk, asterisk. Another message, timestamped 6:04. Check your doorstep. She didn't want to. She had to. There, in the exact center of the mat, sat a small black box tied with gold ribbon. No flowers. Just the box. Her hands shook as she carried it inside. The ribbon untied with a whisper. Inside, a single skeletal key, brass, antique, heavy. And a note in handwriting she now recognized. Elegant, slanted, lethal. For the locked room you haven't found yet. When you're ready to know everything, use it. I'll be waiting. D***. She stared at the key until her vision swam. Then she looked out her window. Across the street, the same town car idled. The rear window lowered just enough for her to see his silhouette. He raised a hand. Not in greeting, but in acknowledgement. He knows I'm looking. The realization hit like a physical blow. He hadn't just been sending flowers. He'd been mapping her routines, her fears, her solitary rituals. The client meeting hadn't been serendipity. It had been the opening move in a game she hadn't known she was playing. Gertrude closed the curtains with trembling fingers. But the truth was already inside, blooming in the dark like gardenias under moonlight. He knew her routine far too well. And now, so did she. Gertrude didn't touch the key for 3 days. She left it on the kitchen counter like a loaded gun, brass glinting under the pendant light every time she reached for coffee. The black box stayed open beside it, gold ribbon coiled like a sleeping snake. She told herself she was waiting for clarity, for courage, for the rational part of her brain to override the adrenaline. But every night she dreamed of skeletal locks and gardenias rotting in her hands. On the 4th morning, her phone buzzed at 6:12 a.m., earlier than his usual dawn texts. Metropolitan Museum. Cafe in the American Wing. 11 a.m. Table by the Tiffany window. Come alone. You'll be safe. Public. Witnesses. D****. She stared at the screen until the letters burned. Public. The word was a lifeline and a trap. She could ignore it, block the number, file a restraining order with the precinct 2 blocks away. But the key on the counter whispered otherwise. When you're ready to know everything. She went. The museum was a Saturday swarm of tourists and strollers, the great hall echoing with foreign languages and the squeak of sneakers on marble. Gertrude wore a navy trench cinched tight, hair in a severe knot, the key buried in her coat pocket like contraband. She found the cafe easily, glass walls, sunlight fracturing through stained glass panels, the smell of overpriced croissants and espresso. Dan was already there. He sat with his back to the wall, facing the entrance, a porcelain cup untouched in front of him. No coat today, just the black shirt, sleeves rolled to the elbow, tattoos crawling like living shadows. When he saw her, he stood. Not a dramatic flourish, just a quiet courtesy that felt more dangerous than any grand gesture. Gertrude. Her name in his mouth was a prayer and a warning. She slid into the chair opposite, hands flat on the table to hide the tremor. You said public. This is public. It is. His gaze flicked to the family at the next table, the security guard lingering by the Rembrandt. No one here will bother us. Order something. You haven't eaten. I'm not hungry. You had half a grapefruit at 7:03. Nothing since. He signaled the waiter anyway. Black tea, 2 sugars, no milk. And the almond croissant, she'll pick at it. The waiter nodded and vanished. Gertrude's skin prickled. Stop cataloging me. I can't. Simple. Unapologetic. It's how I stay alive. And now, how I keep you alive. The tea arrived. She wrapped her fingers around the cup for warmth. You said you'd tell me everything. I will. He leaned forward, elbows on the table, voice pitched low beneath the cafe clatter. But first, yes. I sent the flowers. All 365. Paid in cash, rotating florists, standing order renewed every 90 days. No digital trail. No cameras. Just me, parked half a block down, watching you open the door each morning. Her throat closed. You watched me. From a distance. Never closer than the hydrant on the corner. Black town car. Tinted windows. You never saw me, because I didn't want you to. Not yet. That's not devotion, Dan. That's obsession. He finished for her. Yes. But not the kind that hurts. The kind that waits. She laughed, a brittle sound. You think stalking is romantic? I think patience is. He reached into his jacket, slowly, telegraphing every move, and withdrew a small leather notebook. He slid it across the table. Open it. She did. Inside, dates, times, weather conditions. Her comings and goings, logged in his elegant slant. Day 1 to 5:47 a.m., rain. She hesitated on the threshold, umbrella forgotten. Took the camellias inside without looking around. Asterisk, asterisk. Day 47, 5:52 a.m., fog. First time she smiled at the bouquet. Forget-me-nots. Asterisk, asterisk. Day 200, 5:45 a.m., clear. She photographed the orchids from 4 angles. Started the journal. Asterisk, asterisk. Page after page. A year of her life, distilled into observations. Gertrude's voice cracked. Why me? He closed the notebook gently. Because of a moment. One moment, 12 months ago. The old courthouse on Center Street. You were there for the Hawthorne estate case, digitizing trial transcripts. She remembered. A pro bono favor for colleague. A terrified intern cornered by a prosecutor twice her size, badgering her about a misplaced exhibit stamp. Gertrude had stepped between them without thinking. Asterisk, back off, counselor. She's 19 and you're bullying her over a clerical error. Try it again and I'll have your bar number on the ethics board by lunch. Asterisk. The prosecutor had backed down. The intern had cried. Gertrude had forgotten it by dinner. Dan hadn't. I was there, he said quietly. Not for the case. For business. I saw you in the hallway. You didn't raise your voice. You didn't posture. You just stood, calm, fierce, unbreakable, like a blade wrapped in silk. His eyes softened, something raw flickering behind the control. Nothing in my world is gentle, Gertrude. Nothing. But you defended someone weaker without expecting anything back. It rearranged me. She stared at him. So you what? Decided to play secret admirer? I decided to earn you. He leaned back, hands open on the table. I left. But I came back the next day. And the next. Watched you walk into that courthouse like you own the truth. After a week, I knew your route, your coffee order, the way you tug your left earlobe when you're thinking. I told myself it was research. Then it was admiration. Then it was, he stopped, jaw tight. I'm not a gentleman. I've done things that would make you sick. But with you, I wanted to try. So I sent flowers instead of words. Let you get used to being seen. The cafe noise faded to a dull hum. Gertrude's tea had gone cold. You could have introduced yourself. And you would have run. A faint, humorless smile. You're logical. Guarded. A man like me, tattoos, reputation, blood on his ledger, shows up with gardenias and a smile? You'd have filed a report. She couldn't deny it. I waited, he continued. Let the flowers speak. Let you wonder. Let you choose curiosity over fear. And you did. You kept them. Sketched them. Researched the meanings. You were talking back, even if you didn't know my name. Her fingers found the key in her pocket, metal warm from her skin. And now I'm here. No more shadows. No more anonymous deliveries. His gaze was steady, unflinching. If you want me gone, say the word. I will stop everything. The flowers. The watching. The texts. I'll vanish so completely you'll doubt I was ever real. One word, Gertrude. Stop. The cafe held its breath. A child laughed somewhere near the fountain. Sunlight fractured through Tiffany glass, painting them in jeweled shards. She opened her mouth. The word hovered on her tongue. Asterisk, stop, asterisk, sharp as a guillotine. But it didn't fall. Her silence stretched, taut and electric. Dan's eyes searched hers, something fragile flickering beneath the steel. Hope, maybe, or dread. She swallowed. I should say it. You should. I want to, but you won't. No, the admission slipped out like a confession. And that terrifies me more than anything. His shoulders eased a fraction, the barest exhale. Good. Good. She laughed, shaky and incredulous. This is insane. Insane is relative. He stood, dropping $100 bill on the table. Walk with me. Just to the sculpture garden. Public. Safe. 10 minutes. Then you decide. She should refuse. Should run. Instead, she found herself standing, trench coat buttoned to the throat, the key a molten weight in her pocket. They moved through the museum side by side, not touching, the space between them crackling. Tourists parted around them like water around stone. At the glass doors to the sculpture garden, he paused.
One more thing, he said. The key.
It opens a room in my home. Not a dungeon. Not a shrine. Just proof. When you're ready. And if I'm never ready, then it stays locked. He met her eyes. But you will be. Curiosity is your weakness, Gertrude. And I've just given you the biggest mystery of your life. He walked away first, hands in his pockets, disappearing into the crowd without looking back. Gertrude stood in the doorway, sunlight warming her face, the key burning a hole through her pocket and her resolve. She didn't say stop, and that silence echoed louder than any scream. Gertrude left the vault at 11:47 p.m. She didn't remember the drive home. Only the brass key burning against her skin and the dried gardenia on the passenger seat, wrapped in black tissue like a funeral favor. She parked in her underground garage, killed the engine, and sat in the dark until the dashboard clock ticked past midnight. Her phone buzzed. You're home. Good. Lock the doors. I'll know if you don't. Asterisk, asterisk. She stared at the screen until it dimmed. Then she locked the doors. Sleep came in fragments. Courthouse hallways bleeding into greenhouses, Dan's voice murmuring Latin flower names while blood dripped from the petals. She woke at 4:58 a.m., 9 minutes before her alarm, with a taste of iron in her mouth. The bouquet was back on her doorstep. Not gardenias. White hellebores, asterisk winter rose asterisk, the language said. I'm anxious for you. The arrangement was smaller, wrapped in plain brown paper, no ribbon. A single card tucked inside. Drink the tea. You'll need the clarity. Asterisk, asterisk. She carried it inside, set it beside the dried gardenia, and opened the paper. A vacuum-sealed pouch of loose-leaf tea. Snowbud Yashurseong Dansong, rare, $400 an ounce. Her exact favorite, sourced from a single cliff in Guangdong. She'd mentioned it once in passing to Lily 6 months ago. Her hands shook as she brewed a cup. The scent was snow and orchids. She drank it black, standing at the window, watching the street for the town car that never appeared. At 7:12 a.m., she left for work. The route was the same, 12 blocks, left on 78th, cut through the park. But today, the shadows felt curated. A homeless man who'd never been there before shifted his cart to block a suspicious van. A jogger in a Columbia hoodie slowed to match her pace, eyes scanning alleys. When she reached the archive steps, a courier on a bike nearly clipped her, then veered, apologizing profusely, pressing a small envelope into her hand before vanishing. Inside, a subway token and a note in Dan's handwriting. For the 6th train. Uptown. You'll miss the crowd at 8:15. Asterisk, asterisk. She used it. The platform was empty. The train arrived exactly on time. This was courtship, she realized. Not flowers. Not words. Orchestration. Lily called at noon. Gertie, the flowers stopped, right? You promised. They stopped. The lice slid out smooth as silk. Thank God. I was this close to calling the cops. Don't. I'm fine. You don't sound fine. You sound hollow. I'm busy. Talk later. She hung up and opened her journal. The real one, not the flower ledger. The pages were no longer sketches of blooms. They were him. Day 366, 5:47 a.m., no town car. But the doorman nodded at someone across the street. Paid, asterisk, asterisk. Day 367, 8:03 a.m., courier. Bike plate, XRT, 491. Check DMV, asterisk, asterisk. Day 368, 12:17 p.m., T. Snowbud. Only one importer in tri-state. Trace, asterisk, asterisk. She was documenting Dan. His patterns. His reach. The way he anticipated her exhaustion and sent a town car when the subway delayed. The way he appeared in the archive lobby at 6:02 p.m. on Thursdays. Always Thursdays, when the fluorescent lights gave her migraines, offering a ride she never accepted. On the 10th day, she broke. She texted him at 2:14 a.m. Manor. Tomorrow. 8 p.m. Truth, not flowers. Asterisk, asterisk. His reply was instant. Gate code still 1847. I'll leave the East Wing dark. Come armed with questions. Asterisk, asterisk. She arrived in a cab, trench coat buttoned to the throat, the key on its chain like a talisman. The manor loomed larger at night, windows glowing like eyes. The front door opened before she knocked.
Not Dan.
A woman, mid-40s, sharp bob, tailored suit, stood in the foyer. Miss Blake. Mr. Sanders is in the library. This way. Gertrude followed, pulse hammering. The woman's heels clicked with military precision. You're early, the woman said without turning. He predicted 8:07. You're at 7:59. Impressive. Gertrude's mouth went dry. Who are you? Elena. House manager. Also, apparently your biggest fan. A wry smile. He talks about you in meetings. Asterisk, Gertrude prefers the 2019 tax codes for provenance. Check the footnotes. Asterisk, we've all memorized your tea. They pass the kitchen, stainless steel, industrial, spotless. A glass jar on the counter. Snowbud Yeshur Seong Dan Song. Label in Dan's handwriting. GJB, 2 teaspoons, 185 degrees Fahrenheit, 30 seconds. Her stomach flipped. The library was 2 stories of leather and mahogany, fire crackling low. Dan stood by the hearth, sleeves rolled, tattoos stark against the firelight. He didn't move when she entered. You came. You left me no choice. Elena closed the doors behind her. The click of the latch sounded final. Dan gestured to a wingback chair.
Sit. Or stand.
Your call. She stood. Your staff knows my name, my tea, my schedule. This isn't truth. This is integration. He poured 2 fingers of scotch, offered one. She shook her head. You wanted to see how far it went. Here it is. He sipped, eyes never leaving hers. Elena's been with me 12 years. She runs the house, the books, the exits. Marco, your barista, sends me your order before you pay. The jogger in the park? Luca. Ex-NYPD. He clocks your pace, your mood, any tale. The courier? Nico. He's 17. Wants to go to Columbia. I'm paying his tuition if he keeps you safe. Gertrude's knees buckled. She's Saturday, you bought my life. I protected it. He crouched in front of her, elbows on his knees. I talk about you more than I should. In strategy sessions. In safe houses. Asterisk, Gertrude would archive this differently. Check the metadata. Asterisk, they think I'm obsessed. They're right. She laughed, sharp, incredulous. This is insane. It's survival. His voice dropped. My enemies sniff weakness. If they sense I care, they'll use you. So I make you untouchable.
Known. Claimed.
Part of the machine. Without asking me. I'm asking now. He reached into his pocket, withdrew a small velvet pouch. This isn't a ring. It's a choice. Inside, a gardenia petal, pressed in resin, set into a thin silver cuff. Simple. Elegant. Lethal. Wear it and you're under my protection. Publicly. No more shadows. No more anonymous tea. My world sees you as mine. They won't touch you. And if I refuse, then I keep protecting you anyway. From farther away. You'll never see me again. But you'll feel it. Every safe subway ride. Every clear crosswalk. Every night your door stays locked and your windows stay whole. The fire popped. A log shifted, sparks flying. Gertrude stared at the cuff. You said you weren't gentle. I'm not. He stood, towering but not crowding. But I'm trying. For you. She slipped the cuff onto her wrist. It fit perfectly, measured, no doubt, from the photos he'd never admitted taking. The petal caught the firelight, luminous. Dan exhaled, a sound like surrender. Good. Elena knocked once, entered with a tray, 2 cups of snowbud, steeped exactly 30 seconds. She set it down, nodded at Gertrude. Welcome to the family, Miss Blake. We've been waiting.
She left. The doors closed.
Gertrude lifted her cup. You memorized my steep time. I memorized you. He sat across from her, finally. Now teach me something I don't know. She sipped. The tea was perfect. I hate orchids. Too fragile. They bruise if you look at them wrong. He smiled. Small, genuine, devastating. Noted. No more orchids. Outside, snow began to fall, silent against the windows. Inside, the fire settled into embers. Gertrude leaned back, the cuff cool against her pulse. Fear was still there, coiled in her gut. But beneath it, deeper, dangerous, was hunger. She was no longer documenting the flowers. She was documenting him. And for the first time in her ordered, solitary life, she didn't want to stop. The cuff stayed on her wrist for 11 days. 11 days of subtle courtship, the town car idling exactly 2 car lengths behind when the subway stalled, a single white hellebore tucked into her archive locker with a note, asterisk thinking of you at 3:14 a.m., the hour you rewrite footnotes asterisk, Dan appearing in the reading room at closing time, leaning against the circulation desk like a shadow that had learned to wait. He never touched her. Not once. But the space between them crackled like live wire. On the 12th night, the wire snapped. Gertrude left the New York Public Library's Schwartzman building at 11:47 p.m., later than usual. A private client had requested digitization of a 1923 shipping ledger rumored to contain coded smuggling routes. She'd lost track of time cross-referencing manifests with old Port Authority blueprints. The main steps were locked. She took the staff exit on 40th Street, heels echoing in the marble corridor. The city outside was ablaze, wind off the Hudson, sodium lights pooling yellow on wet pavement. She pulled her trench tight, the cuff hidden beneath the sleeve, and started the 8-block walk to the subway. She never made it. A black SUV cut the corner at Bryant Park, tires hissing. Doors opened before it stopped. 3 men, balaclavas, no insignia, moved with practiced silence. One grabbed her arm, twisting it behind her back. Another clamped a gloved hand over her mouth. The third opened the rear door. She bit down hard. The hand jerked away. She tasted blood and latex. Feisty, the grabber snarled. Boss said alive. Didn't say unharmed. They shoved her toward the SUV. Her archive bag spilled, laptop, blueprints, the brass key on its chain skittering across the sidewalk. Gertrude's mind cataloged in overdrive. Asterisk library blueprints, 1932 renovation. Service corridor behind the Rose reading room. Side exit onto 40th, unmarked, leads to loading dock. Security patrol. Officer Ramirez, 11:50 p.m. loop, starts at the lion statues, clockwise, asterisk. She went limp, dead weight. The grabber cursed, shifted his grip. She slammed her heel into his instep, felt bone crunch. He howled. She twisted free, dove for the library doors.
Locked.
Of course. Staff exit auto-bolted at 11:45. Plan B. She sprinted left, toward the Park Service gate. The men followed, boots pounding. One fired a suppressed shot. Asterisk thwip asterisk. Concrete exploded beside her ear. She ducked into the shadows of the library's south facade, palms scraping brick as she felt for the maintenance hatch she'd seen in the blueprints. There. Knee-high, rusted, half hidden by ivy. She yanked it open, hinges screamed, and crawled through. The tunnel was pitch black, smelling of mold and old paper. She knew it by heart. 47 feet to the freight elevator, then up to the loading dock. She ran blind, fingers trailing the wall, counting steps. Behind her, the hatch slammed open. Flashlight beams sliced the dark. Split up. She can't have gone far. She reached the elevator. Manual crank, no power after hours. She hauled the gate, muscles burning, and slipped inside. Cranked it 1 floor. The cables groaned like a dying animal. The dock exit opened onto 42nd Street. Tourist side, brighter lights, more witnesses. She burst out, trench coat flapping, hair wild. A couple on a late-night stroll stared. "Call 911, she shouted. "Kidnapping." The woman fumbled for her phone. The man backed away. Too slow. The SUV screeched around the corner, headlights pinning her like a moth. The doors flew open. Gertrude scanned. Fire escape on the adjacent building, 12 feet up. Too high. Delivery truck idling at the curb, engine running, driver smoking. She ran for it. The driver saw her, eyes widening. She yanked his door open.
Drive. Now.
They're armed. He floored it. The truck lurched forward, tires spinning. Bullets pinged off the rear. Asterisk thunk 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 star. The side mirror exploded. Left on 5th, she yelled. Then right on 39th. Lose them in the tunnel. The driver, bless him, obeyed. They careened through traffic, horns blaring. The SUV stayed on their tail, weaving like a shark. At 39th, the light turned red. The driver blew through. Gertrude braced as they hit the underpass, dark, echoing a choke point. The SUV followed. She spotted it. Construction barricade ahead. Orange cones funneling traffic into one lane. Slow down, she ordered. Let them close. Are you crazy? Do it. He eased off the gas. The SUV surged, trying to ram. At the last second, Gertrude grabbed the wheel. Hard left. The truck clipped the barricade, spun. The SUV swerved to avoid collision and slammed into a concrete pillar. Metal crumpled. Steam hissed. The driver stared, white-knuckled. Jesus Christ. Pull over.
Now. He did.
Gertrude stumbled out, legs jelly. Sirens wailed in the distance, finally. She looked back. The SUV was totaled, doors hanging open. 2 men crawled out, limping. The 3rd didn't move. Her phone buzzed in her pocket, miraculously intact. Unknown asterisk, where are you? She typed with shaking fingers. 42 and D and 5th. Truck. Safe. Asterisk. A black town car screamed around the corner before she hit send, tires smoking. It braked hard. Dan exploded out, coat flapping like wings, face stripped of every mask. He saw her, alive, bleeding from a cut on her cheek, trench torn and broke. The sound he made wasn't human. A guttural, animal thing torn from his chest. He crossed the distance in 3 strides, hands hovering over her like she might shatter. Gertrude. His voice cracked. Christ, I was too late. He cupped her face, thumbs smearing blood and tears she hadn't realized were falling. His eyes, those controlled, unblinking eyes, were wild, pupils blown. I felt it, he rasped. The second they touched you. Like a blade in my gut. Behind him, his men swarmed, Elena barking orders, Luca cuffing the injured kidnappers, Nico on the phone with someone who sounded like NYPD brass. But Dan didn't move. She gripped his wrists. I'm okay. I got out. You shouldn't have to. His forehead dropped to hers, breath ragged. I swore no one would touch you. I failed. The vulnerability hit her harder than the kidnapping. This man who archived atrocities, who orchestrated empires, was unraveling in her hands. Dan, she said his name like a lifeline. Look at me. He did. And she saw it. Terror, raw and bleeding bicentennial. They knew, he said. The Moretti family. Words out. The boss has a woman. They wanted leverage. His jaw clenched. They'll die for this. No, she tightened her grip. Not like this. He laughed, bitter, broken. You think I have a choice? They touched what's mine. I'm not. You are.
Fierce.
Possessive. You've been mine since the first gardenia. I just didn't know how to say it without breaking you. Police cruisers arrived, lights strobing red and blue. Officers shouted orders. Dan straightened, the mask sliding back into place, but not all the way. A crack remained, jagged and real. He turned to Elena. Clean it up. No statements. She was never here. Elena nodded. Already done. Dan opened the town car door. Get in. You're not walking anywhere tonight. Gertrude hesitated. The truck driver was giving a statement, gesturing wildly. The kidnappers were cuffed, bloodied. The library loomed behind them, silent witness. She climbed in. The car pulled away smoothly, merging into traffic. Dan sat beside her, rigid, hands clenched on his thighs. After 3 blocks, he spoke. The blueprints. The patrol routes. How? I memorized them, she said. Like you memorize me. He closed his eyes. You're incredible. I was terrified. I know. His hand found hers, fingers threading tight. But you fought. You won. Silence stretched, thick with adrenaline and something softer. At a red light, he turned to her. No one touches you again. Not ever. I swear it on my mother's grave. The vow was iron. Absolute. Gertrude studied his profile, the sharp line of his jaw, the ink at his collar, the tremor he couldn't quite hide.
She saw the depth of it then.
Not obsession. Not control. Devotion. The kind that built empires and burned them down. The kind that watched from parked cars for a year and learned to send tea instead of bullets. The kind that broke a man when he was 2 minutes too late. It changed everything. She squeezed his hand. Take me home. He nodded. But the car didn't turn toward her apartment. It headed north, toward the manor, toward whatever came next. The manor's east wing swallowed her whole. Dan carried her inside like contraband, past the vault, past the library, up a staircase she hadn't seen before. The guest suite was monochrome. White linens, charcoal walls, a single window overlooking the snow-dusted greenhouse she hadn't known existed. He set her on the edge of the bed, knelt to unlace her boots with the same precision he used to archive murder. You're bleeding, he said. It's a scratch. He disappeared, returned with a medical kit. Antiseptic stung. His hands didn't tremble anymore, but the gentleness was surgical. Stay tonight, he said. Not a question. She nodded. Exhaustion won. He left her with a glass of water and the cuff on the nightstand, removed while she slept, she realized later. She woke at 4:47 a.m., disoriented, the room too quiet. No bouquet on the doorstep. No text. Just the hush of snow against glass. She dressed in yesterday's clothes, found her way downstairs. The kitchen was empty, coffee already brewed. A note on the counter. Gate code changed. 1943. Use it. I'll know when you leave. Asterisk, asterisk. She drove home at dawn. The apartment building looked smaller. Ordinary. Her key turned in the lock with a familiar click. She stepped inside and stopped. The doorstep was bare. For the first time in 366 days, no dew-kissed petals waited. No ribbon. No silent vow. The absence hit like a physical blow. Gertrude stood in the doorway, trench coat dripping meltwater, staring at the empty mat as if it had betrayed her. She had expected the gardenias. Needed them. The ritual had become oxygen. She closed the door, leaned against it, and felt the loss carve a hollow behind her ribs. Stupid, she thought. They were never yours to keep. But the apartment disagreed. Vases lined every surface, 365 arrangements in various stages of decay. The air was thick with fading perfume. She walked the perimeter like a mourner, touching wilted petals, tracing the evolution of ribbons from cream to black. Her journal lay open on the table. The last entry. Day 365. Gardenias. He knows I know. Asterisk, asterisk. She added a new line in shaking script. Day 366. Nothing. The silence is louder than any bloom. Asterisk, asterisk. The day unraveled in grayscale. She called in sick to the archives. First time in 8 years. Lily texted 3 times. She let them go to voicemail. She brewed the last of the snowbud, watched it steep too long, bitter on her tongue. By dusk, the hollow had teeth. She paced, counted steps, opened the journal, closed it, opened the fridge, closed it. The cuff sat on the kitchen counter now, the pressed petal catching the pendant light like a trapped star. At 9:12 p.m., the lights flickered. Not a blackout, just a pulse like the building inhaled. She froze in the living room, heart kicking. The deadbolt turned with a soft snick. The door opened. Dan stepped inside, closing it behind him with the silence of a man who owned locks. He wore black, sweater, jeans, boots, no coat despite the snow. In his right hand, a single white gardenia, stem wrapped in black satin. He didn't speak, just held it out. Gertrude's voice cracked the quiet. You picked my lock. Among other things. His gaze swept the room, the vases, the journal, the cuff. You kept them all. You stopped sending them. I did. He crossed the space slowly, boots silent on hardwood. Stopped an arm's length away. I stopped sending flowers. I'd rather stay and give them to you myself. The gardenia trembled between them, not from his hand, but from the air itself. She stared at it. Why now? Because you fought for your life last night. His voice was raw, stripped of velvet. And I realized the flowers were a coward's game. A year of speaking in petals because I was afraid of what my voice would do to you. He extended the bloom. She took it, fingers brushing his for the first time. Static sparked. The petal was cool, perfect. She brought it to her nose. The scent was memory and apology. I was too late, he said. By 2 minutes. 2 minutes, Gertrude. I've ended men for less. You didn't end them. I wanted to. A muscle ticked in his jaw. Elena talked me down. Said you'd hate the mess. She laughed, short, incredulous. She knows me better than I know myself. She's not wrong. He stepped closer, close enough that she felt the heat radiating from him. You changed everything. The way I move. The way I breathe. I built walls out of bodies and money, and you walked through them with a library card and a glare. Her throat tightened. I was terrified. I know. His hand lifted, hovered near her cheek, then dropped. I've never been terrified before. Not like that. Not the kind that hollows you out and leaves you praying to a god you stopped believing in at 19. The gardenia trembled in her grip. I don't know how to do this, she whispered. Whatever this is. Neither do I. His eyes, storm gray, unguarded, searched hers. But I know I can't send another flower from a distance. I can't watch you open a door and wonder if today's the day someone takes you from me. I need to be here, in the room, where I can see you breathe. The vulnerability in his voice was a blade. She set the gardenia on the table beside the cuff. You broke into my home. I bypassed 3 locks, a deadbolt, and a security chain you forgot to engage. A ghost of a smile. You're welcome. I should call the police. You won't. No, she admitted. I won't. Silence pooled, thick with snow and unsaid things. He moved first, slow, deliberate, reaching past her to the journal. He flipped to a blank page, picked up her pen, wrote a single line in his elegant slant. Day 367, I stayed. Then he closed it. Gertrude's pulse thundered in her ears. What happens now? Now, he said, we stop pretending the walls are intact. He sat on the edge of the dining table, asterisk her asterisk table, scattered with archival notes and tea rings. The gardenia lay between them like a truce. I used to think control was power, he said. Catalog everything. Predict every variable. But you, he shook his head. You're the one variable I can't solve.
And I don't want to.
She stepped closer, drawn by the crack in his armor. I kept waiting for the other shoe to drop. For the monster to show up instead of the man. I'm both. His gaze dropped to her wrist, where the cuff had been. But the man is winning. Because of you. Her fingers found the cuff on the counter, traced the pressed petal. This is insane. Insane is relative. She laughed, soft, broken open. You quote me now? Every chance I get. The space between them shrank to inches. She could see the faint scar through his left eyebrow, the way his pulse beat at his throat. I miss the flowers, she said. This morning. It felt like losing a limb. I know. His voice roughened. I stood outside your door at 5:43 with the bouquet in my hand. And I couldn't do it. Couldn't leave it and walk away again. The confession hung there, fragile as frost. Gertrude reached out, hesitant, trembling, and brushed her knuckles against his.
Just that. Skin on skin.
The contact was electric. Neither moved. The gardenia perfumed the air. Snow tapped the windows like a hesitant visitor. His thumb traced the inside of her wrist, featherlight. Tell me to leave. She didn't. Instead, she turned her hand palm up, an offering. His fingers threaded through hers, slow, reverent. The walls didn't just crack. They crumbled. Gertrude woke to the scent of gardenias and the low hum of the manor's heating system. The guest bed was too vast, the sheets too crisp. Sunlight filtered through blackout curtains she hadn't closed. Dan was gone, bed unslept in on his side, a note on the pillow in his precise script. Business in the city. Back by dusk. Explore. The house is yours. P.S. Coffee's on a timer. 7:03 a.m. Don't skip breakfast. Asterisk, asterisk. She padded barefoot to the kitchen. The coffee was perfect. Ethiopian Yirgacheffe, 195 degrees Fahrenheit. Single origin beans she'd mentioned once in a footnote about 19th century trade routes. A plate waited. Poached eggs, rye toast, a single white hellebore in a bud vase. She ate standing at the island, the cuff back on her wrist like a brand. The manor was a labyrinth of silence. She wandered, past the vault, locked, past the library, fire cold, down corridors lined with art that whispered old money and older sins. A grandfather clock ticked like a heartbeat. Snow muffled the world outside. At the end of the west wing, a door. Plain oak, no handle. A biometric pad glowed soft blue. She hesitated, then pressed her thumb. Borrowed from Dan's kit the night before, lifted while he showered. The pad chimed green. The door side open. The room beyond was temperature-controlled, dim, reverent. Floor-to-ceiling shelves. Archival boxes in neat rows, labeled in Dan's handwriting. She stepped inside. The door sealed behind her with a whisper. The first box, Day 1, GJB, White Camellia. She lifted the lid with reverent fingers. Inside, the original cream ribbon, coiled like a sleeping snake. Brown craft paper, folded with hospital corners. A single dried petal, pressed between acid-free glass. A photograph, her doorstep at dawn, bouquet centered, her shadow just visible as she bent to pick it up. Her breath caught. Box after box. Day 47, forget-me-nots, midnight blue silk. Day 112, red tulips, crimson velvet. Day 200, orchids, gold thread. Day 365, gardenias, black satin. Every ribbon, every wrap, every leftover petal, cataloged by date, condition, dew point. Some boxes held multiple items, stems trimmed to exact lengths, water droplets preserved in silica. One held a single brown leaf from day 312, labeled first sign of autumn. She wore the green coat. Asterisk, asterisk. She opened a drawer at random. Inside, her initials embossed on custom acid-free envelopes. A logbook, her reactions, inferred from security footage he'd never admitted to having. Day 73. Smiled at the lilies. First full smile. 0.7 seconds. Asterisk, asterisk. Day 147. Touched the tulips to her cheek. Closed eyes. Inhaled for 4.2 seconds. Asterisk, asterisk. Day 366. Empty doorstep. She stood 47 seconds, longer than usual. Looked across the street. Asterisk, asterisk. Her knees buckled. She sank to the carpet, surrounded by the archaeology of his devotion. This wasn't surveillance. This was worship. She pulled a box from the bottom shelf. Asterisk, asterisk, day 0, asterisk, asterisk. Dated the day before the first bouquet. Inside, a courthouse photo. Her, in the hallway, stepping between the intern and the prosecutor. Her face fierce, calm, unbreakable. On the back, in Dan's handwriting. The moment I stopped being a ghost. Tears blurred the ink. She didn't hear the door open. Didn't expect you to find this so soon. Dan's voice was soft, stripped of steel. He leaned in the doorway, coat dusted with snow, hands in his pockets. No anger, just resignation. Gertrude looked up, surrounded by boxes like a child in a fort of secrets. You kept everything. I kept the only proof I had that you were real. He stepped inside, closed the door. The room sealed them in with the scent of preserved petals and old paper. The flowers were for you. These, he gestured at the shelves, were for me. She stood, legs unsteady. This is pathological. It's devotion. He moved closer, slow, giving her space to bolt. You archive history. I archived you. The only clean thing in my life. She touched a box. Asterisk, asterisk, day 219, crimson roses. She wore the red scarf. First time she looked happy. Asterisk, asterisk. You watched me cry over a misplaced decimal in a ledger. Her voice cracked. You saw me burn toast and swear at my printer. You saw me fall apart after your father's anniversary, he finished quietly. Day 184. You sat on the fire escape with a bottle of cheap Merlot and cried until 2:14 a.m. I wanted to climb up, hold you. Instead, I sent peonies the next morning. Grace under pressure. She spun to face him. You had no right. I know. He stopped an arm's length away. But I had no choice. You were the first person who made me want to be seen. Not feared. Not obeyed. Seen. The room spun. She backed into a shelf, boxes shifting with a soft rustle. I thought the vault was the worst of it, she whispered. The bodies. The blood. But this is the part one can't justify. His voice roughened. The part where I took pieces of you, without asking. Where I built a shrine out of your mornings because I was too much of a coward to ask for your evenings. She laughed, wet, broken. You're a monster. I am. He didn't flinch. But I'm a monster who learned your coffee order before I learned your middle name. Who knows you hum Debussy when you're concentrating. Who kept every petal because throwing them away felt like throwing you away. Silence stretched, thick with the scent of a year's worth of gardenias. Gertrude looked at the boxes, at the photographs, at the man who had archived her life with the same precision he used to archive his sins. She saw him then, not the boss, not the killer, the boy who watched his mother die in a car bomb, who learned mercy was weakness, who saw a woman defend someone smaller and decided gentleness was worth the risk. I don't approve, she said finally. I can't justify it, but I see you. His shoulders sagged just a fraction. Relief or surrender? She couldn't tell. She stepped forward, reached for a box. Asterisk, asterisk, day 365, asterisk, asterisk. Opened it. The black satin ribbon coiled inside like a promise. She lifted it, let it pool in her palm. You kept the ribbon from the day you revealed yourself. I kept the day you stopped being a secret. She tied the ribbon around her wrist beside the cuff. A double claim. Dan watched, eyes unreadable. What does this mean? It means I'm terrified, she said. And I'm staying anyway. He exhaled, slow, shaky. Good. She closed the box, set it back on the shelf. Show me the rest, she said. All of it. He did. They moved through the room like archaeologists in a tomb. He opened drawers she hadn't seen, sketches of her apartment layout, annotated with sightlines and escape routes. A timeline of her father's illness, cross-referenced with bouquet choices. A single pressed gardenia from his mother's grave. Asterisk, asterisk, 1978, asterisk, asterisk. The only item not labeled with her initials. This one's mine, he said. The only thing I had left of her. Until you. Gertrude touched the glass. You gave me her flowers. I gave you the only purity I've ever known. They ended at a small table in the center. On it, a fresh gardenia in a crystal vase. No ribbon. No card. Just the bloom. Open and luminous. I grow them now, he said. In the greenhouse. From cuttings of every bouquet. They'll bloom year-round. For you. She stared at the flower. At the man. At the boxes that held a year of stolen mornings. I don't know how to love this, she said. The obsession. The control. You don't have to. He stepped behind her, not touching. Just love the man who's trying to unlearn it. One petal at a time. She turned. Faced him. The room held its breath. Gertrude reached up, slow, deliberate, and touched the scar through his eyebrow. The one from his first lesson in the butcher shop. He closed his eyes. I see you, she whispered. His hand covered hers, pressing her palm to his cheek. The walls didn't just crack. They dissolved. They left the petal room at dusk. The manor had shifted into evening mode, sconces dimmed to amber, snow hissing against the windows like static. Dan led her by the hand. First time he'd initiated touch without hesitation, down a corridor she hadn't explored. The ribbon around her wrist brushed his skin with every step. He stopped at a heavy door, steel disguised as walnut. Thumb to the pad. It opened onto a stairwell spiraling down. Basement, she asked. Sub-basement. The part even Elena doesn't enter without me. The air grew cooler, laced with gun oil and old concrete. Motion sensors flickered on, revealing a corridor of reinforced glass. Behind it, a firing range, a gym stripped to essentials, a wall of monitors cycling through city feeds, her apartment building, the archives, the library steps where she'd nearly been taken. Gertrude's stomach clenched. This is your war room. It's where I keep the parts one can't kill. He keyed open the glass. Come. Inside, the space was Spartan. A steel table held a single folder, thick, red-tapped. He didn't open it. Instead, he rolled up his left sleeve. Scars mapped his arm like a topographical survey. Bullet graze along the bicep, knife track across the forearm, a puckered burn at the wrist. First one, he said, touching the graze. Age 21. Rival crew thought they could take the docks. I was the message. He turned, lifted the hem of his sweater. A lattice of old wounds crossed his ribs. Shrapnel. Blade. One neat circle from a .38. Car bomb residue, he said quietly. The one that killed my mother. I was late picking her up. She waited in the passenger seat. Gertrude's fingers hovered, then settled on the circle. The skin was warm, raised. I carry it every day, he said. The weight. The guilt. It's why I learned to predict. To control. Because the one time I didn't, his voice fractured. I lost the only gentle thing I had. He let the sweater fall, faced her. Your turn. She hesitated, then unbuttoned her blouse, slow, deliberate, revealing the pale line beneath her left breast. Surgical scar. Childhood open heart surgery. Defect, she said. Born with it. My father left the day I came home from the hospital. Said he couldn't watch me break. Dan's fingers traced the scar with reverence. He was a coward. My mother tried. Worked 3 jobs. Died when I was 16. Overdose. Accidental, they said. Gertrude's voice was clinical, archived. I learned early that being seen means being left. So I built walls out of facts. Timelines. Metadata. If I controlled the narrative, no one could rewrite me. He cupped her face. I see you. The words were a blade and a bomb. She continued, softer. Every bouquet was a crack in the wall. Every text. Every time you anticipated my need before I voiced it. I hated it. And I craved it. I know. His thumbs brushed her cheekbones. I've been starving for someone to see the man, not the monster. You looked past the ink, the empire, the blood. You saw the boy who kept his mother's gardenia and didn't know what to do, with a gentleness. The space between them shrank to breath. Gertrude's hands found his chest, palms flat over his heart. I'm terrified of this. Of needing you. Of being needed. Me too. His forehead rested against hers. But I'm more terrified of a world where I send another flower and walk away. The confession hung, fragile as frost. She rose on her toes. He met her halfway. The kiss was not soft. It was a year of withheld mornings, of locked rooms and preserved petals, of bullets and blueprints and bruises. It was hunger finally unchained. His hands framed her face, angling her for deeper access, hers fisted in his sweater, pulling him closer until there was no space left for fear. When they broke apart, foreheads still touching, breath ragged, he whispered, Choose me. I already did, she whispered back. The day I tied your ribbon around my wrist. He laughed, low, broken open. Then choose me again. Every day. Out loud. I choose you, Dan N. Sanders. Monster, archivist, man who grows gardenias in winter. He kissed her again, slower, sealing the vow. When they pulled apart, the war room felt smaller, the monitor's glow softer. Dan took her hand. There's something I need to show you. Another vault? Something I've been building for a year. He led her back upstairs, through corridors now familiar, to a door she'd passed a dozen times without noticing. Plain wood, no lock. He pushed it open. The greenhouse. It was vast, glass walls fogged with humidity, heated air thick with the scent of earth and bloom. Rows upon rows of gardenias, thousands of them, under grow lights that mimicked dawn. White petals glowed like moons. Gertrude stepped inside, shoes sinking into moss. You said you grew them from cuttings. Every bouquet, he said. I took a leaf, a stem, a root, propagated them in secret. This is the harvest. Pathways wound between the plants, each labeled with dates. Day 1, a single bush, small but healthy. Day 365, a wall of bloom, dense and luminous. He stopped at the center. A clearing. In it, a small table, 2 chairs, a bottle of champagne chilling in a silver bucket. I built this the day after the courthouse, he said. Before the first bouquet. I didn't know your name yet. Just that I'd found the place I wanted to bring you when you were ready. Gertrude walked the rows, fingers trailing petals. It's impossible. Nothing's impossible when you're patient. He joined her, hand at the small of her back. This is where I plan to ask you to stay. Not as a prisoner, as a partner. She turned to him. And the danger? Still there. His expression hardened. The Moretus won't stop. But neither will I. With you beside me, I'm not just surviving. I'm living. She studied his face, the scars, the ink, the eyes that had watched her for a year and learned to hope. I'm not gentle either, she said. I'll fight. I'll archive your enemies the way you archived my mornings. His smile was fierce. Good. He poured the champagne, handed her a flute. To choosing each other, he said. She clinked her glass to his. Every day, out loud. They drank. The bubbles were cold, the gardenias warm. Outside, snow fell thicker, blanketing the world in silence. Inside, the greenhouse pulsed with life, white blooms under artificial stars, 2 people who had spent a lifetime hiding finally stepping into the light. The danger remained.
But so did they.
They left the champagne half-finished, flutes abandoned on the mossy path. Dan's hand stayed at the small of her back, guiding her deeper into the greenhouse's heart. The air thickened, humid, perfumed, alive. Grow lights dimmed to a simulated moon, casting silver across endless white blooms. The gardenias stretched in every direction, a sea of petals undulating under the glass dome like breath. Gertrude's shoes sank into the soft earth. She stopped at a junction where 4 paths converged, each labeled in Dan's elegant script on small brass plaques embedded in the soil. Day 1, White Camellia, you're a flame in my heart. Day 47, Forget-Me-Nots, true love and memories. Day 200, Orchids, rare beauty and strength. Day 365, Gardenias, secret love, refinement, purity. She knelt, fingers brushing the plaque for day 365. Beneath it, the bush was massive. Dozens of blooms open, more budding. She inhaled. The scent was the same as every dawn on her doorstep, but amplified, layered, eternal. Dan crouched beside her. This one's from the final bouquet. The one I placed on the curb after the texts. I took a cutting before the dew dried. She looked at him. You planned this before you knew my name. I planned it the moment I saw you defend that intern. His voice was low, reverent. I didn't know who you were. Just that you were the reason I'd learned to grow things instead of destroy them. He stood, offered his hand. She took it. He pulled her up, then deeper still, past rows that chronicled her moods, her seasons, her quiet victories and hidden griefs. Day 184, Peonies, Grace Under Pressure. The anniversary of her father's death. Day 312, Chrysanthemums, You're a Splendid Friend. The day she'd laughed out loud at a misplaced decimal in the archives, the sound carrying through her open window to the town car parked below. They reached the center. A clearing, circular, paved with pale stone. In the middle, a single gardenia bush, larger than the rest, roots wrapped around a small marble plinth. On the plinth, engraved, 4GJB, the flame that taught me light. Gertrude's throat closed. She circled the bush slowly. Every bloom was perfect, open, luminous, fragrant. She touched a petal. It was warm from the lights, soft as skin. Dan watched her, hands in his pockets, tension coiled in his shoulders. I started this the night after the courthouse. One cutting, one hope. I didn't know if you'd ever see it, if you'd ever want to, but I built it anyway, brick by brick, petal by petal. A year of devotion turned into living, breathing beauty. She faced him. The greenhouse lights haloed his dark hair, the ink at his collar stark against his skin. Snow tapped the glass overhead, a muffled heartbeat. He stepped into the clearing, boots silent on stone. Stopped an arm's length away. Gertrude J. Blake. His voice cracked on her name, raw and unguarded. You turned a violent man gentle. He dropped to one knee. Not theatrical, not practiced, just necessary. Like the weight of a year had finally settled in his bones. I've killed. I've lied. I've built an empire on fear and precision. But you... He reached into his pocket, withdrew the dried gardenia from the vault, the one from his mother's greenhouse, pressed in glass since 1978. He held it out like an offering. You made me want to be the man who plants flowers instead of graves. Gertrude's eyes burned. She took the relic, fingers trembling. The glass was cool, the petal inside brown and fragile, but the shape unmistakable. I can't promise safety, he continued. The Morettis are wounded, not dead. My world will always have shadows. But I can promise this. Every morning, I'll be on your doorstep. Not with a bouquet. With me. With coffee at 195 degrees. With the truth, even when it's ugly. With the man who learned your heartbeat before he learned your middle name. He looked up at her, eyes storm gray and pleading. Will you stay? The greenhouse held its breath. Gardenias perfumed the air like incense. Snow fell thicker outside, blanketing the world in hush. Gertrude knelt too, knees on cold stone, the dried gardenia between them. She set it on the plinth, then took his hands, scarred, ink-stained, steady. I spent my life archiving the past so no one could rewrite me, she said. You archived me. Every breath, every smile, every tear. You saw me when I was invisible, chose me when I was unchoosable. Tears slipped down her cheeks, warm against the chill. I'm terrified of needing you, of losing you, of becoming someone who waits for footsteps instead of facts. She squeezed his hands. But I'm more terrified of a morning without you on my doorstep, without your ridiculous tea, without the man who grew an ocean of gardenias just to say, I see you without words. Dan's breath hitched. I choose you, she whispered. Every day. Out loud. Shadows and all. He surged up, pulling her with him, crushing her to his chest. The kiss was desperate, teeth and tears, and a year of withheld mornings. His hands framed her face, thumbs wiping her cheeks, hers fisted in his hair, anchoring him like he might vanish. When they broke apart, foreheads touching, he laughed. Wet, incredulous. You said yes. I said stay. She smiled through tears. There's a difference. He kissed her again, slower, sealing it. The gardenias swayed around them, petals brushing their sleeves like blessings. Later, minutes or hours, time had dissolved. He led her to a bench hidden in the blooms. They sat, her head on his shoulder, his arm around her waist. The greenhouse lights dimmed further, simulating true night. Stars peeked through the glass roof, sharp against the snow. Danger's still out there, he murmured into her hair. But in here, this is ours. She nodded, fingers tracing the ribbon on her wrist, black satin, now joined by the cuff and the weight of his mother's petal in her pocket. The Morettis, she said. We face them together. Together, he echoed. I'll teach you the shadows. You teach me the light. She turned, kissed the scar on his jaw.
Deal.
They stayed until the snow stopped and the greenhouse exhaled into dawn. Gardenias bloomed around them, white and endless, a fairy tale forged in shadows and devotion. The flowers were never the gift.
He was.
And now she finally takes him.